Hello and welcome everyone. This is Phoenix with your Patriot Health Report for the weekend of Saturday, April 26, 2025. All the health facts you need to know for the Patriot on the go. Hope you guys are doing well. And of course, I'm joined by Bob Gilpatrick of Boomers Forever Young. We're going to be talking about something we have never covered in all of these years, and that is brain health. Yeah, we could all use a little of that, right? Myself included. Anyway, it's going to be a fascinating topic, one we've never delved into. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. So let's get right into it and bring in Bob Gilpatrick. Bob, how are you, sir? And how are things going down at the headquarters there?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks, Phoenix. And things are going well here, too. You know, it's summertime now. It's the end of April, and this week, today and tomorrow will be a little over 90 degrees here in the middle part of Florida. And things are going very well. We're still making repairs and recovery from the hurricanes from last year, from last September, and probably will go on until the end of the year before everything is done. Hopefully there won't be any more hurricanes in the fall that makes us start over again.
Oh, yeah, but, that'd be bad.
Yeah, it would. But things are going well. Our Myotrol, of course, is back in stock, and lots of people have been getting it. And we've been getting a lot of new testimonials. You know, we have 3,500 testimonials now in this program called Looks, where people get to send their picture in. And it's really cool because we get to see the person's testimonial and we get to see what they look like. And since most of our customers are not from St. Petersburg, we don't ever see them, but you get to see what they look like. But that was a little different today, Phoenix. When I was arriving at work, a lady was pulling up into our special guest parking spot for Boomer customers. And I waited for her at the door. She came in, and turns out she's a listener to the Patriot Intel Report, Patriot Health Report. And she came in, and we had a really nice talk for quite a while. And she's been, a customer purchasing Boomer nutrition products for quite a number of years. So it was very interesting. As soon as I arrived at work today, here's a listener to the Patriot Health Report in the driveway.
Very cool. Where did she travel from?
Boston. She was down here for a Edgar Casey conference being held in Tampa. And she decided to just on a whim drive over towards the beach and see if we were around.
Wow, that's very cool. An Edgar Casey conference. Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? First thing that came to mind is like if you're a vendor, you do really well selling applesauce there. Are you familiar with Casey's applesauce thing? Yeah, he had a thing that he advised everybody to do like once a year where I think it was like 3 days, I think, and all you eat is applesauce, nothing else. Eat as much as you want, but you only eat applesauce. It was an Edgar Casey some type of health thing. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very cool. It's always nice to hear when people come down. Any other news or updates we need to get into before we get into today's topic?
No, I just wanted to tell people about a couple of testimonials we got. This one's really cool. This lady is 73 years old, and she sent in a picture of herself with her 11-year-old grandson. And this is what she said. She said, I've been using Boomers Forever Young products for 8 years now. Due to their miraculous formulas, I have an abundance of energy at 73 to work with seniors in home health care and entertain my 11-year-old grandson. This is living life at the fullest, thanks to Boomers Forever Young. Endless gratitude, much love. And this, you should see the picture of this lady with her grandson. It's just amazing.
Oh, that is so cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and then here's another lady who wrote this, and I hadn't thought about this for quite a while, but it reminded me of one of the reasons why we put these products together. She said, since I started taking the combo, which is a combo of Boomer Boost and barley, I noticed that I'm eating less food because I feel full for a longer period of time, and I don't crave sweets anymore. I make a shake in the morning before work around 6 a.m. and I have energy and feel satisfied until lunchtime. And it tastes great too.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, that just came in 3 days ago and she sent us her picture too. This really beautiful woman.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
And it just goes on and on. Since the last time we talked, Phoenix, I'll bet you we've had 40 or 50 new testimonials.
That's great, Bob. I tell you what, that's always good for your company, good for company morale, business, etc. Let you know that you're really doing some good for the community. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to be able to get feedback like that, and to see over the years all these testimonials come in. With that, and including what we had in Trustpilot, it's over 4,000 people have written stuff in.
That's amazing. Very, very good.
Yeah, we don't have all 5-star reviews, but we have average of 4.7 out of 5.
Oh, that's really good. You ever get any real bad reviews, like 1 star? You ever get anything like that?
We do, actually. What happens is if somebody tries a product, like our sleep aid product works for 95% of the people. But that 5% that it doesn't work for, they send the product back and give you a 1-star review.
Wow.
But we're not, upset about that, because the average sleep product, whether it's a prescription or over the counter, only works about 50% of the time. And so you also, once in a while, you get people that don't like the taste of the barley. And for a while, when we had a different formula, there were a lot of people that didn't like the taste of the Boomer Boost. But now it tastes really great. So we're getting tons of testimonials about how great the Boomer Boost tastes. And but from time to time, you get people that will do that. Then also, we keep all the testimonials, and some people will write in and they'll go, I'm giving it a 2-star review because I've only been using it for 2 days and I don't know yet.
I've seen those type of reviews for different products. Yeah. Like, I'm only giving this 1 star because I haven't really used it yet, and
I'm thinking about taking it out of the box.
Seriously, I have seen those before. I'm like, okay. Like,
yeah.
Why bother?
I had that happen the other day. I was talking to a guy. I was like, how's it working for you? He goes, well, it came in the mail, and I'm thinking about taking the plastic off of it today.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. How long had it been? How long did he had it in the mail?
Just a couple of days.
Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'm just the opposite. I get something in the mail, man. It's like out of the box is processed, it's unwrapped, everything's off of it. It's like ready to go. I mean, that's just how I roll. Anyway, very cool. Anything else before we get into this brainy topic we have today?
No, I don't think so. It's not braining out yet today, so we'll jump right into it.
It's not braining out. Okay. Very good. Well, so I don't mind we do this. So, and I guess that don't matter. Mind over matter. So let's get into it. The brain, the human brain. And it is interesting that all the years and all the different topics that you have covered, we've discussed, we've never specifically done the brain. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've talked about nootropics before and how, different chemical formulations, can help your brain, but we never talked about all the global aspects of it. And, it's using, it's in a sense, you want to kind of change the way that you think about what your brain needs in order to really care for yourself. And some people might call it using your brain for a change.
Yeah, using the
And
brain. Yeah.
um, and so there's many more aspects to caring for your brain and making it function at the highest level possible. And this, everybody you talk to wants to improve their mental abilities or capabilities. And the movie Limitless, when it came out a number of years ago, was extremely popular and really raised interest in brain health and brain performance. And people started thinking though about their brain in regard to, is there a pill we can take that will be like the magic pill in the movie Limitless, and it's going to really, amp us up and all of a sudden make us superhuman. And the fact is, you can take pills that do, quite a bit of amping up and elevation, including things like phenylpiracetam, uh, that will give you a temporary jolt like that, but you're also going to crash from it later. And what's better really to do is to understand all the aspects of it so you have overall brain health that you can tweak if you want with nootropics that are safe. And so we'll talk about a couple of those nootropics later on. But first, it's important to know, that your brain uses up a lot of energy. It uses up 20% of all your energy, even though it's, less than 10% of your body weight. And there's a lot to the way that your brain functions. And so there's a lot of chemistry that's happening in your brain, and there's a lot of electricity that's going on in your brain, and in addition, a lot of electromagnetism. And so if you were to use diagnostics to try to determine the health of your brain, you can actually, look at it with biophotonics. You can use positron emission tomography to actually look at your brain, and you could see where there might be places where you've had poor circulation, places where you've had, over pruning of brain cells during your teenage years, which happens to everybody because your brain kind of overgrows itself when you're young, and then during the time you're a teenager, it kind of selectively allows part of it to die off. And if that happens to an excess, you can actually see that on these brain scans. But in addition to that, there's the levels of neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are chemicals. They're molecules that are jumping from one brain cell to another, from a supply to a receptor, and it's activating all different types of things that are going on in your brain. And you also have a huge electrical component to it, both at the synapses and on the dendrites, and also at the borders of the cell wall of your brain cells themselves. And then highly dependent on this type of activity we're describing is the electromagnetic profile of your brain, which now can be mapped with neurobiofeedback technology that can give a computer printout of what type of electromagnetic waves are predominant in which parts of your brain, and there can be a comparison made to what's optimal and where you are suboptimal, and then you can get feedback training that literally changes the brain waves in a particular part of your brain so that it brings it into the optimal range. And there's a lot of things that can knock your brain waves out of optimal, including traumas that are physical traumas or psychological traumas particularly can do that. Illnesses, obviously concussions being part of the physical has a dramatic detrimental effect on your brain waves, but it can all be reset, including, there are a number of very famous athletes, Phoenix, that had concussions that were not recovering with any other type of intervention and were going to have to retire, that were able to go for neurobiofeedback training to reset their brain waves in parts of their brain that had gotten knocked out of balance by the concussion. And miraculously, all of a sudden, now they can function again. And in one case, a professional athlete set the all-time record for the most passing yards in a football game right after coming off of his neurobiofeedback training. And a lot of professionals now use that on a regular basis. They use neurobiofeedback. Kirk Cousins, who's was the quarterback for the Minnesota team, who went over to Atlanta, I believe, to be their quarterback, uses his neurobiofeedback regularly. And he says, when I don't use it, I really notice. And his performance is not as good if he skips it. And I think he was skipping it most of last year because his performance was not as good as it used to be. Mm-hmm. But it illustrates a point in regard to brain health, how interconnected the chemistry, the electricity, and the electromagnetism, how all of that needs to be kind of fine-tuned, so that you have a well-running machine. And the good news is that there's diagnostics for all of these different aspects, and there's ways to improve or solve or enhance each of these aspects of your brain health.
Before we go further into this, you're talking about the athletic side and the traumatic injuries. Isn't that what happened to Muhammad Ali? Because I know Muhammad Ali, before he passed away, he wasn't doing too good. And was that a result of basically being bonged in the head too many times?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he had some classic symptoms of, concussion type syndrome like that. He had Parkinson's-like symptoms, and Parkinson's disease is, a result of, a shortage of dopamine in particular areas of your brain that, such as your corpus striatum. And there's a number of aspects of how it can become a shortage, but certainly damage to the section of your brain that provides the supply of dopamine, the cingulate gyrus, is going to, significantly hamper the availability in your motor neuron areas, right? And then also the transference of that dopamine from one section of the brain to the other is going to be affected, because that transference is highly, highly dependent on the brain waves. And so he he probably would have done very well with neurobiofeedback training had he availed himself of it. But a lot of the damage that occurred to him was in the 60s and early 70s, when he was, in the ring with people like Joe Frazier, who strangely took great glee at the end of Muhammad Ali's career that he was the one who had damaged his brain the most.
Oh man,
And
that is so low.
yeah,
What a
well, it
claim
was
to
kind of
fame.
his response to being referred to as a gorilla by Muhammad Ali.
Well, yeah,
Um,
they did have a thing going on there, without
yeah,
a doubt.
and he
So,
didn't
yeah.
appreciate Muhammad Ali, um, saying how he was, going to get the gorilla in Manila,
Oh, I
and
remember that.
it was very derogatory and kind of incentivized Joe Frazier to do that. But yes, Muhammad Ali definitely had concussion induced Parkinson's syndromes, and
Mhm.
that's also what leads to CTE, Phoenix, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy that is the concussion disease that people get that acts kind of like Alzheimer's disease, but also has a high degree of anger and violence and anxiety and suicide. And there's been quite a few um, professional athletes here in the Tampa Bay area that have committed suicide following the onset of CTE, um, which is a shame because there's another element to CTE that's not just the concussion, but it's also related to the need to address inflammation. And so, in addition to bruising and bleeding in the brain, there tends to be a lot of inflammation with concussions, as is also true with strokes. And that inflammation can be addressed. And there are studies that show that people that have had a lot of concussions, if their inflammation is low, it never later morphs into the traumatic encephalopathy. And so that's a really important aspect of brain health is paying attention to your inflammation and knowing from your blood work what level of inflammation you have and knowing what to do about it and to have a routine that will become part of your daily routine that'll lower your inflammation to not only enhance your brain health, but to enhance the health of the whole rest of your body as well.
Very good, very good. Yeah, so we have the physical aspects of it. I know a lot, like you're talking about the dietary aspects. I guess we have the dietary aspects, nutritional aspects, and possibly other things also. Which one you want to talk about first, the dietary aspects or the other?
Yeah, so the dietary aspects relate to some of the other parts of it. So, for example, the inflammation we're talking about. People that consume too many high glycemic index carbohydrates, drink too much soda pop, too many alcoholic beverages, that type of thing, end up having high blood sugar and then as a result, high inflammation. And so, just from a standpoint of what you're consuming for your calories, 25% of all the calories in the United States come from drinking soda pop. And that is the first thing that people need to address that want to address their brain health. What are you drinking that has too much sugar? Are you drinking sugary sports drinks? Are you drinking soda pop? Are you drinking beer? All of those things are going to contribute to inflammation. And so you want to know that so that you have incentive to cut back on that. And one of the things like the testimonial we just read earlier, Phoenix, the lady was saying, hey, I'm not craving sweets anymore. Well, what we've found, especially with our sprouted barley seed product, almost always when people start using that, they lose their craving for sweets. And that's a really big help because people get literally addicted to sweets. And if you look at a picture of someone's brain, a biophotonic photograph, you look at a person who's been using drugs like cocaine or heroin, and you look at someone's brain who's addicted to sugar, there's more damage in the brain of someone addicted to sugar than to controlled substances. And so to have an advantage where you can get rid of your addiction, which is a full-blown addiction, involving, receptors of dopamine, it can be done by changing your diet. And by changing your diet by consuming our sprouted barley seed powder, you can naturally change your diet because you're no longer craving more and more sweets. And then what you do eat, you can pay attention to and make it more balanced and less inflammatory. And so the other thing about nutrition is your brain, to a high degree, is fatty acids. It's made up of fat. And people say, well, what do you mean fat? Like, ooh, my brain is fat. Well, fatty acids are not much different than other compounds. Mostly human beings are made up of hydrogen and oxygen and carbon and nitrogen and things like that. And it's just kind of rearranged in a different way where it will make up a fatty acid or an amino acid. And as that makeup changes, there's different names that science has given to these configurations of the basic elements of the periodic table. And our genetic code has all the code for how to arrange those elements in configurations that allow for our brain and our nervous system to function as by itself, but also all of the support that it needs, support of detoxification and circulation, etc. And so your heart, which has its own neurons in your heart, but for the most part, your heart is there to support your brain. And we are essentially, as beings that have consciousness and the ability to even have this conversation, such as how are we going to use our brain to promote the health of our brain? You don't have other animals doing that same thing. And the fact that we can do that kind of indicates, here we are, this nervous system, which starts in our brain and then drops down, with the spinal cord and the peripheral nerves to the rest of our body. And those peripheral nerves are helping with the function of the other aspects of our body and also giving feedback back up into our brain. But if you were to really look at what a human being is in regard to its ability to think and to, have an imagination and to feel emotions like love, we are primarily a brain and a spinal cord. And if we didn't need all of the support and that could levitate, we would all just be a bunch of brains with a spinal cord walking around.
Oh, now that's a creepy thought. Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
weird.
That's essentially who we are. Human beings are consciousness that's facilitated by a brain and a nervous system, and to some degree a heart, and other parts of us are supportive, such as your gut. And when it comes to diet, you want to pay attention also what is the general makeup of your alimentary canal, and from your mouth all the way down to the bottom, right? And particularly in your large intestine, you have lots and lots of good bacteria that is doing all kinds of work. It's fermenting fiber, and it's creating metabolites, which are molecules that are the precursors to our neurotransmitters. And for example, serotonin, right? And serotonin is kind of, there's a lot to it, but in general, it's, a molecule of your waking state. So we're constantly making serotonin, but we're converting very little of it to melatonin, which is kind of the molecule of our sleep state. But if you've ever seen somebody who has a very dramatic low level of serotonin, they can't get out of bed, and they can't, they can open their eyes, but their eyes are rolled back in their head. You can't see their pupils. And to try to rouse them and get them up is close to impossible. And so people that have severe depression, that's how you might find them in the morning, if you're their caretaker. And so it just goes to show you that these little tiny bits of these neurotransmitters have this profound effect on all the aspects of your beingness, of you being a human. And so to know about your gut, what it does, how it produces metabolites that help with your brain health, is extremely valuable. And what we've done, Phoenix, is partly because of the difficulties people get into that have had to have their colon removed and have a colostomy bag. Those people are missing a big part of human metabolism, which is the creation of metabolites in the gut that lead to the facilitation of many metabolic pathways. And so we created a probiotic, a good bacteria powder that does that for you. So we put the sprouted barley powder into a vat. We added good bacteria and a special mineral water, and we let it ferment until it's created these metabolites that normally you'd create in your gut on a daily basis. And then we dry that powder out and stabilize all those metabolites so they don't deteriorate from oxidation. And then we give that to people in a bottle of powder that they can mix in water and drink. And it contains the metabolites that normally be made in your gut. And it then elevates all the upstream molecules, including the neurotransmitters that we need in order to move around, be alert, be happy, feel emotions, and all like that. But those same probiotics work really well for people whose intestines are fully intact. The reason being is these metabolites that are in the powder don't have to be absorbed in your large intestine, your colon. They are going to be absorbed from the proximal part of your alimentary canal in the little villi that are on the inside of your small intestine, and where the food goes first after leaving your stomach. And so now you're absorbing all these metabolites in your small intestine, goes right into your bloodstream, and it bypasses the need for the action that would happen in your colon. And so for people looking to, balance the hundreds of different molecules that your brain needs in order to function properly, that's one really easy way to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, the other real important aspect to your diet is knowing that your brain is 60% fat, and that you need to have as part of your diet good fats, and there's fats that heal and fats that contribute, and there's fats that kill as well. And so it's interesting that a fatty acid, with just a little bit of a tweak to its chemical configuration, can be very healthy for you, and the tiniest tweak can make it poisonous. It's the difference between a cis fat and a trans fat. And it's a matter of the polarity of the bonds in the chemical structure. And there are things we can know that will prevent us from consuming the deadly fats, including how you cook your food, right? But in general, one of the things that came about around 10 years ago, maybe, was the whole concept of bulletproof coffee, and became very, very popular. It was kind of created by just a fluke, where Dave Asprey was in Tibet, and he was hanging out with Tibetans in the high mountain ranges, and he was having a hard time because he was out of breath in the high altitude, and he was getting very weak. And the Tibetans gave him a drink, which was yak butter tea. Immediately, it gave him a pickup, and he was then able to, go and do all the things he wanted to in Tibet. And when he got back to the States, he started thinking, I need to figure out what that was all about, and is there a way to duplicate it here in the United States and Canada? And he spent time in both countries, and that's where he came up with the concept of bulletproof coffee, where he discovered that some of it was mid-chain triglycerides, others was other kinds of fat, and so he's like, okay, we need to put some MCT oil from palm oil or coconut oil in our coffee, along with some butter and later cocoa butter. And he introduced people to this concept of, in the morning, drinking your coffee, which has good fats in the coffee as well, drinking your coffee with good fats in order to give your brain a boost first thing in the morning, instead of just drinking coffee with sugar and cream, which also has a lot of sugar in it. Instead, drink your coffee with good fats. And good fats also taste sweet. And so a cup of bulletproof coffee, if you put it in the blender and blend it up, it tastes like this really nice buttery frappuccino type of coffee drink. And that's a dietary aspect that caught on. I don't know if it's 1 million people that have tried it, but it's definitely hundreds of thousands of people have tried bulletproof coffee, and some of them stick to it, some don't. It's a little bit of a process to fix it, and some people don't have the patience for it. But if you want to make it, you get out your blender, put the ingredients in, the butter, the oil. I put collagen powder in mine, and then you make your coffee in a French press. You don't want to put it through a paper filter, because it will filter out the good fats that are in the coffee. So put it in a French press, and then pour that hot coffee into the blender on top of those ingredients and blend it up. And that's bulletproof coffee. You can do a lot of the work before you go to bed at night. So when you get up in the morning, it's easy to do. So if you're waking up, still kind of waking up, and you're a little groggy, most of the work could have been done the night before. That's what I do before I go to bed. I do everything I can, so it's easy to make it in the morning.
Yeah, I've been using that for years. My recipe, Bob, is, of course, I use a French press, and I do prep before the next morning. I already have the coffee grounds in the press, just needing the water. What I do is I actually have, I use the grass-fed butter, and also the MCT oil, right? 1 tablespoon of that. Then I actually use 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper in mine, because I also put in a couple of tablespoons of 100% cacao. Um, unprocessed chocolate, unsweetened, dark, right? Not
Yep.
not the Dutch type, but the dark 100% cacao. And
Yep.
it's supposed to be really good for your heart also. So that's the way I
Yep.
make mine, and nothing else. And sometimes I put coconut milk in. Um, and but it takes some getting used to, especially with the cocoa powder. And the reason I started doing that was they actually discovered there was an area in Mexico that was high population of the lineage of descendants of the Mayan. And even though these people ate all kinds of like fatty foods and didn't really have that good of diets, heart disease is almost non-existent there. And the only thing they found that was unusual in the population was they had picked it up from the Mayans, where they would drink hot cocoa every day, sometimes a couple times a day, but not just hot cocoa. They added cayenne pepper to it,
Oh,
and
wow.
heart
Cool.
disease is almost non-existent there, even in like obese people. They couldn't figure it out. It's like, how do these people not have heart disease? And that's the only common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah. The cayenne pepper is probably acting as a transport vehicle for the chemicals that are in the chocolate. And, yeah, there is a particular chemical in chocolate that is, and there's a lot of research that shows how effective it is on your brain. And, um, that's one of the ingredients that's in our Myotrol product, Phoenix, is a highly concentrated and purified extract from chocolate.
I did not know that. I did
Yeah,
know there's research out there, and people talked about it. It increases almost doubles your stem cell production. Also,
yeah, yeah. And so in order to get enough to make a difference, it's easier than like you eating chocolate every day or drinking a couple of cups every day, because most people won't do that, but they will take a pill. And if it's highly enough concentrated, it can work just as well or even better. And and then there's other known compounds that have different effects on different parts of the brain and the human body, and um, so there's different chemicals to activate those, and it's a stack of ingredients that help with all of that.
you
But
know,
also, in as part of that, there's a chemical they call BDNF, brain derived neurotropic factor. And it does many things, but one of the things is it's one of the molecules of motivation. And BDNF is kind of acts like this facilitator when people have a thought and translating it into action. So we see a lot of our testimonials where people are talking about taking Myotrol and all of a sudden having the incentive to get up and move and to exercise. Because a lot of people have good intentions. It's like, yeah, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week or every day for half an hour. And they find themselves not doing it. They're sitting on the couch, they're tired. Then they think to themselves, I really should get up and exercise, but they don't do it. But when you elevate the amount of BDNF available, you are much more likely to actually move and act on the thought that you had. And so in the design of Myotrol, that was part of it because it's like, okay, Myotrol can help you with building muscle and producing energy, but if you don't have the motivation, what good does it do? And so part of the design was let's elevate people's BDNF. And there's other ways to elevate parts of your brain chemistry, and that is falling into the category of nootropics, which is towards life, so to speak. And we have a couple of those, Phoenix, that people can get. One of them is called Neurofuel. And Neurofuel, it doesn't act on BDNF, but it acts on a different neurotransmitter called CAMP, C-AMP. And CAMP acts like a flotation device, and it up levels other neurotransmitters in the same amount. And so you want a balance of your norepinephrine and your dopamine and your serotonin. Too much of one, not enough of the other can make you feel anxious or depressed. And so you don't want to take a nootropic that only elevates one unless you know from blood tests that that's exactly what you need. But if you want to elevate all three of them at the same time, that's what Neurofuel does. It upregulates CAMP, which upregulates the other ones. And if you look at the ingredients of that, there's artichoke extract and coleus are the two plant extracts that are creating this effect, but they also create side effects. And so if you look at the other ingredients that are there, including phenylalanine and N-acetylcysteine, they're in that product to mitigate the side effects, and which they do. And so you can feel really good taking a couple or three, of those pills. And some people may have used to known of it as Siltep. And Siltep, for quite a long time, people feeling this is the next best thing to the fictitious limitless pill. And it became so popular, they actually had to change the name of it because people were ignoring their patent and knocking it off and selling it on the internet, and it wasn't their product. And so they changed the name of it and stopped advertising in certain places so they could regain control of their product. And they let Boomers Forever Young sell it on their behalf.
Oh, wow.
Which we do. And so very interesting invention that these scientists made. And we also have another one that people really like called Clarity Factor, and there's a testimonial just came in 2 days ago because the Clarity Factor product that we created worked so well that lots and lots of people really liked it. And the company went out of business that was making it for us. And so for quite a few months, we couldn't get the product while we found a new company that would make it exactly the same. And we finally did, and now it's back in stock. And that's something we put on sale in order to help people get back started. Or if you want to start at the beginning, we put a 10% discount on Clarity Factor so people have room to get back started on it. And those are two really, really great nootropics that are safe. You don't feel any side effects like you would with the racetam type products, and it helps in many different ways. It helps with memory and focus and concentration, and it's well worth checking out. And that, in a sense, is part of your diet, because you probably can't eat enough artichoke and coleus in the right balance to upregulate your CAMP. Yet it's derived from plants. And that's what's so great about modern science, is we can now take individual molecules out of plants and put them together in a combination that has an effect in the human body that, until scientists start trying these things, no one ever knew was possible. Nobody really had an intention or really was thinking much about upregulating CAMP. Because it's like they just didn't think that there was something that could be done to do it. But somehow, somewhere, the scientists got the idea and figured out which of these compounds in which plants could be combined together to do that. And it never ceases to amaze me, Phoenix, working with these scientists that figure these things out. I know they're getting some of the information through their meditations and prayers, but even with that, it's always hard for me to believe that people came up with this stuff. And to me, each one of them is like a miracle. I mean, you think about the years of research and the years of meditation and prayer that was involved in the creation of gladiator barley. I mean, the man that created it is just so intensely focused on helping people that he created this mindset that allowed for the revelation of these technologies to make that product. And same is true with people like Eric, who created the Myotrol to literally begin a revolution in the field of nutrition scientists by creating a whole different kind of nutraceutical based on epigenetic editing. And it's like, wow, it's like, I need to take some more neurofuel so I can get smart enough to invent something like this.
I tell you what, that's pretty cool. The one thing I was thinking about, I don't believe we've discussed that. You have your recommended things for people to take every day with their boomers and the barley. One of those being fish oil. I've always heard about that, and people talk about it's like fish is brain food. What is the benefit of taking a daily fish oil for our brain health?
Yeah, so there's a lot of benefits. Your brain cells themselves are made up of fats, and so the fats in the fish oil are making up the cell. But also, extremely important is that there's one particular fat in fish oil called DHA that is present in high concentrations in your eyes. Specifically the cones and rods in your eyes. Each cell has kind of a membrane that separates the inner part of the cell from the extracellular, fluid, and that membrane in your cones and rods has a high degree of DHA, and that DHA is a miraculous molecule. It's known to have been around for over 2 billion years and never had been altered. Most molecules over time change their structure based on the environment that they're in. Because the environment's changing, the molecules morph with the changes, but not DHA. DHA has been the same for a couple billion years. And what happens is when light hits your eyes, those photons hit the cones and rods, and that membrane with the DHA converts that photon into an electron, and those electrons are providing the electrical aspect of your brain, of which all of your neurotransmission is dependent on. So to a very high degree, your brain is working based on the fact that you have DHA in your bloodstream, in the cones and rods in your eyes. And people that get severely deficient in DHA because they're not eating any foods with it in it are going to have lower electrical activity in their brain and won't have neurotransmission that is as efficient as people that don't.
That's interesting. That brings something to mind also. No pun intended. I saw a study one time that stated that the further away a population area is away from a coastal area, they appear to have higher frequency of mental health issues. And it was put forward that potentially is because it was less seafood was available, which would support basically what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
I always found that interesting.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Well, we're like 5 minutes out from getting the hour
Okay.
here. Why don't we give us your closing thoughts on this topic? Anything else you want to add? And with that, your contact info after you finish all that up, so how everybody can reach you. And by the way, everybody can go to patriotintelreport.com, click on the lady in the blue lightning storm on the left-hand side, take you right to Bob's site. But he'll give you other info. And, words of wisdom, final thoughts, and we'll see how we end this thing up.
Sure. So a few other important things. One, of course, is sleep. And there's a lot of aspects to sleep. But if you want to feel your brain not functioning properly, try not sleeping well for a few days, right? There's a video on our website about sleep. Once you land on the site, all you really have to do is hit the search bar, the search icon. It's on the top left of the screen, and type in sleep, and you'll find a video that's probably about a half hour long, going through every aspect of sleep. And you'll also find the link to our sleep aid that's called Good Night Formula. And another really big aspect to brain health, and tied for as big as any other aspect, is the issue of anxiety. And when people are experiencing anxiety, it's usually related to belief structures that they have. And one particular belief that leads to anxiety is the belief that things are not okay. And people can get into the habit of noticing things that are not going the way they wish it would go. It's too hot outside. It's too cold outside. I don't have enough money. I am not loved enough, etc., 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 etc. And about 95% of the time, the average American is of the belief that things are not okay. And this is a huge cause of damage to your brain, because when you have that consistent set of beliefs, even if they're in the background and everything's irritating you and you're only noticing the bad, then it changes your brain waves. It changes which part of your brain signals a different part of your brain. It changes the way your heart muscle is signaled by your brain. It changes the way your heart beats when you have this constant background belief that things are not okay. And so you want to stand guard at the door of your mind and make sure that you spend time allowing good things in by focus, right? And you can even imagine yourself opening up a door and saying, wow, on the other side of that door are only things that I'm grateful for. And you can open the door in your mind and walk down the hall and notice that there are other doors that you can open. And you can go ahead and open the first door on the right and say, wow, I was told by the sign on the wall here that everything that I'm grateful for in regard to my family is in that room, right? And you can go into the room and walk around, notice all the things that you're grateful for about your family. Then you can come back out, walk down the hall, and you'll notice a sign that says, all the things I'm grateful for about my home, right? And then here's one, all the things I'm grateful for about my God, right? And do this exercise where you walk into each room and you're only noticing the positive. I can tell you, as you do that, it's literally changing the way your heart beats. And your heart will then signal your amygdala and it will go, you know what? Things are okay. And when that occurs, you literally change the brain waves in your amygdala from a beta wave to a delta wave. And waves have a high degree of influence on what happens with your chemistry, your neurochemistry, your neurotransmitters, your signaling pathways in your brain. are dependent on certain brain waves. And to a high enough extent, Phoenix, that one of the best healing techniques that's available in the world is called the healing codes, changes people's brain chemistry by changing their brain waves. And so the whole issue of anxiety is something that people can get over. Watch my video about anxiety. They can watch a video about the inner balance system that helps change those brain waves. They can watch videos about havening, which we know the exact brainwave and exact what part of the brain is being changed. And you can learn about the emotional freedom technique. And it's not just for the healthier brain. Of course, it's going to be tremendously helpful, but just the overall aspect of happiness in your life. You want to know that as part of your birthright, you have the right to change things and to know how to use the most advanced techniques, to use your brain for a change, and to take positive action to say, I'm going to learn to use EFT. I'm going to learn to use havening. I'm going to learn the hallway technique and practice it. And I am going to take this positive action so I have less anxiety so that my life will become better, right? And in the process, your brain will thank you because the inflammation in your brain will go down. You'll balance out those brain waves. You'll upregulate certain neurotransmitters, and you'll be able to move around a lot more easily. You'll be able to exercise more easily, and you'll just overall, you'll be much, much happier. And so, and all of this is free, Phoenix, on my website. People can learn all of those things for free on my website. And I'll tell you this, you can also call, right? So if you start to learn how to use havening or EFT, or you get yourself an inner balance device, and you're not, it's like, well, it's not really working 100%, and you're frustrated, you just call our office, you tell us what's going on, and I will help you to tweak it so it absolutely works for you. And if you're in the neighborhood, come by, like the listener to the Patriot Intel report did today. And just on a whim, I'm so happy I was here at the time she came by. But it's better to call and make an appointment if you really want to come. And I have people coming next week, Phoenix, that I met at an event last night. And one of the ladies' mom really, really needs help, and no one's been able to help her. And she's going to bring her mom over to the facility next week. And we do all of this for free. There's no charge for a consultation or for helping you with EFT or havening or any of the other techniques that we teach. And so you want to get in touch with us, use our 800 number, 861-4609, or go to patriotintelreport.com. When you arrive there on Phoenix's site, you'll see on the top left that a banner that looks like a lady in a blue lightning storm, like she's flying through a blue lightning storm. And if you click on the lady in the blue lightning, you'll end up on our website where you can search for these different topics, and you can find your neurofuel and your clarity factor and your probiotics and all the things that we've been talking about today. And we answer the phone Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time. Call up, you'll get a hold of Stephanie or Lucy, or if you're already a customer of ours, you might get a call from Jim Lee. Jim's a delight. He's going to be 90 on his next birthday, and he's still working for us now. I think he's in his 9th year that he's been working, helping people with their health over the phone.
Very cool.
And I think that's about it for today, Phoenix. Thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
It's been a lot of fun, a lot of good information, and I hope, I'm sure it helped a lot of people. Helped me. provoked some thought. Is very good, Bob. I really appreciate it. And again, the service you guys, you and your team do for people, the consultations, I know for a fact, I won't say it, but confidentiality. There's been people's lives have been saved, literally, by your team, and all your efforts. And I tell you what, again, it's a great service, greatly appreciated by myself, my listeners, and people all over the world. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Very, very cool. Okay, I guess we're rolling out here. Bob, thank you very much. It was, again, great time, and appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks, everybody, with another topic. And we always learn something. It's always informative, and it's always really cool, and really appreciate it again, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoenix. I look forward to next time.
Yep, me too. And everybody, that is it, your Patriot Health Report for this weekend. Everyone be well. Remember, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what kind of house you have, what kind of toys you have, how much money you have in the bank. If you aren't healthy, none of that matters. Paramount. And again, Bob, his products and his staff can help you become the best that you can be. So be sure and check it out. Visit the website and all of that. And everyone, again, thank you very much for your support and listening to Patriot Health Report and Patriot Intel Report if you do. And until the next one, everyone, be well, be strong, right? Be alert and be smart. And until the next one, God bless. Phoenix and Bob out.